BCTR did a fantastic job of, I think, trying to transition to that environment as opposed to what we were expecting, and still make it meaningful for us both, whether we were going to go into a virtual environment for teaching or going back in school. Everything was really up in the air, so we had no idea. So that was pretty challenging in terms of, okay, what should I be taking away from this? Should I be coming at it from a virtual learning lens? Should I be coming at it from a physical, like in-person learning lens? So that was a little bit difficult for me personally. The lesson planning, probably learning how to write good lesson plans and write it efficiently. Efficient use of my time was probably the most challenging. What was inspiring, honestly, my cohort, we had a really great group of secondary science teachers, which Sarah was a part of as well. And we had two fantastic coaches, one of them being Miss Kavieta McCants, who is online with us. And that, it sounds cheesy, but honestly, yes, my cohort members were really a huge source of inspiration and support throughout the entire experience.
Yeah, I echo that for sure. Definitely that lesson planning. For me, that was the most challenging thing, not the lesson planning, but like just my pace is generally slower, I think, than most people. I'm a little older, like I'm almost 40, so I just move a little slower, I think, than someone coming right out of college. So like Catherine said it better, like yeah, just the amount of work. So I really had to pace myself. So it was like some long nights to do everything, but my administration loves my lesson plans. They tell me all the time that I have the best lesson plans, like some of the best lesson plans in the school, and that is solely because of BCTR. So that has been really rewarding. But honestly, for me, the best part was getting a classroom in 6 weeks. I did this training, which was not easy to do, but then I had a class, which was like also not easy to do. Like it's not easy work, but like it is incredible, amazing work. And I'm just so grateful to BCTR to have this opportunity.
Can we hear from some of our alumni about their experience and maybe some of the challenges or that they had kind of being in a traditional environment, not in a virtual environment for their PST?
So I feel like a challenge that I had going through PSC was just, I feel like everyone kind of said just your time, because we were literally there we were there from 8 a.m. to 5:30, and you had to fit in like life outside of it too. So managing your time is so important, because not only does it help you in PST and you'll have your coaches and everything to help you too, but it really does help you in the classroom. Like it really transcended, because I feel like when you can manage your time here, it's a lot, it helps you to manage your time in the classroom because you have way more things to worry about, and a lot of students to account for, and I feel like kind of piggyback what everyone else said, your cohort really becomes your family. Like I remember I would call I would call members of my cohort all the time. I would call my coaches all the time, being like, "Coach, I don't understand this. Can you explain this?" Like you really do become one happy family, and even like outside of this, like I still call my cohort members like, "Hey, how's your school going? Can I pick your brain about this?" Like you really do become one big BCTR family, even after you leave PST.
Great. Kevietta, did you want to add to that?
No, I was just gonna echo that last piece. That actually made me so excited because it's like so true. You go through this experience and the people that are in your cohort, they really understand what you went through. And that's something that can never be taken away. Even years later, 3 years from me, I am still talking with, people from my cohort. And I actually even wanted to say that family piece definitely is true, because even after PST, I know Catherine, you and we've had phone conversations at the beginning, and I still send you like forwarded stuff from the district, so you definitely create those long-term relationships.
Great, thanks. One of the things that we talk a lot in PST and in the TNTP Academy your first year is about the importance of building community, being a part of your school community. When you're looking for a position, finding a good school community fit. I know from my end and helping people find positions, like people get kind of anxious about finding a position, which is a very anxious place to be. But, you know, I think from our perspective and maybe from your perspective, that finding the right fit is super important. The jobs will come. But I want to get an idea of like, how have you helped? What did you do to really help build community in your classroom, but also find your place in your school community, and how important was that in engaging your kids, engaging your school community? And I will go ahead and start with Jayla this time.
All right, well, this is Dunbar is actually my second school, but I would say for both schools, within your classroom is where kind of everything starts. It even starts as a talking point when you're talking with other teachers. So really just creating a space that shows collaboration, support, openness. I came from a corporate background, so it took a while for me to adjust to like a colorful middle school classroom environment. I was like, we just need like some charts that say some stuff, but like I branched out, I got better. I was coached through, and it really helped build a vibe and have a warm place for my students to hang out with me, eventually eat lunch with me, you know, and take some time. But once you put in the work, put in the time to do so, your students will open up, flourish, and really work with you to grow. And I would say that in that same vein, when it comes to building community within your school, being very open and taking your students' lead and being very open about what you feel confident on and what you think you would like feedback on is very important. I had plenty of teachers who were available at my school in both places to really walk me through processes I was not familiar with being a new teacher. And then I came to high school being a new high school teacher and just being open, like, oh, I've tried this. Like, what do you do in this situation? And being a team player, there's often times where there's room for collaboration and showing up and taking on a piece of it as a team makes people very grateful to you and really see that you're trying to own a piece of the school, and that comes back to you over and over again when it comes to being successful in a community.
Did any one of our other panelists want to tackle that question about community in their school, in their classroom as well?
I mean, I can just say that for me personally, it's really helped just to kind of put myself out there, that place of discomfort. So for me, one of the things that came around early in the year was like requests to like give part of a video of ourselves, like reading a script for the Halloween parade. So I went for it. Like I put on a costume of a skeleton. I like had skeleton hands and I like recorded it. And like I just did it, you know, like put myself out there and like made an idiot of myself. And they used it, and like then I was like, oh yeah, the skeleton from the video, and like that instantly like melted the ice in my classroom. So they just felt like, hey, I could be like an idiot, like, oh, well, I could come up here and like be cool, you know. I don't know. So that was really helpful. And since then, like administration's like, hey, do you want to join this committee? Which I don't, but I know I need to be successful in the community. So I just say, yeah, that was my like advice, is just like put yourself out there. But Jesse has been a great coach in telling me like, well, maybe wait till your second year before you like sign up for like too much stuff. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Sarah said about especially living in that place of discomfort. That's the only way that you're able to grow. I'm naturally a very, very introverted person. I don't want to go out and talk to people if I'm not working or anything like that. And so it's really been a matter of pushing myself to, no, go to those community meetings. No, you need to be calling parents and talking to them, even if, you know, just to say something good about their child, or if there's an issue or something like that. It's an important step that you need to do in order to build that community and trust trust with not just your school, but also the important stakeholders like the parents or the guardians. And being just open to that, even when you're not feeling like it. I too am part of some committees, but I was, forced to by my school. But it's actually a really good thing that they did that, because it has helped to build community with my own colleagues, and whereas myself naturally maybe I wouldn't have without that push. Within my classroom, it's again more of that same, if you're putting yourself out there and just being open and honest with your students, making it very clear that you have an interest in them as human beings. Like I start off with surveys where it's like, yes, you're acknowledging the syllabus, that you've read it, you've given me your contact info, but also tell me some more about yourself. When's your birthday? What's your favorite song? That sort of thing. And talking to them and remembering the little details that they tell you about themselves and shouting them out and doing all that and constantly reminding them that we're all in this weird environment. And they open up over a while. It gets a little demoralizing to see a blank screen, but they are definitely there and they're definitely appreciating it.
Thanks, Catherine. Another question I want to ask is, doing PST and your first year takes a lot of just resilience, independence, motivation to get through, and just to build your skills as a teacher. What are some of the ways that you prepared yourself for PST, prepared yourself for the first year? What are some things that you wish you have told yourself, or did do before you started PST in your first year, that you can impart to our incoming cohort? And if I had to call on anybody, I would call on Jocelyn.
So to prepare myself for PST, I just kind of just got focused. Like I really kind of buckled down and was like, okay, like this, like we're doing this, like this is happening. And I just got really organized. Like I made sure to have like everything that I could prepared, even like the stuff that they tell you to have ready, like a notebook, paper, like everything like that, and just made sure to label a lot of things too, so that I could again like stay organized. One thing that I would always tell myself, and even now, post PST, is like get your sleep, for sure. Like your sleep is so important, because I know there are so many like long days, and like you can always put sleep on the back burner, but like I would really say get your sleep and really carve out time, even if it's like an hour or even like 30 minutes, for like you to do something that you enjoy or something that relaxes you, because it can get really like stressful sometimes, or like challenging. And I would say really like make sure too that you are carving, even if it's a little bit of time for yourself. And I feel like that transcends even into your first year, because when you're lesson planning and when you're trying to make sure that you have all these things for like your admin, and even for like for me, like for my para, like it's important to um, plan and make sure that you're prepared for all these lessons, but also to make sure you cut out time for yourself.
I'm thinking back, and it's something that I think I didn't understand the importance of as much before I started PST, but really just being open to trying new things. I think that everybody comes to PST from a different place, maybe being in the classroom recently or not so recently, and you kind of know how you think, what kind of teacher you think you'll be, how you think it will go. And maybe it will and maybe it won't, but being able to try something different to get you to where you think you want to be, or changing that direction, is okay and possibly even beneficial. And I think that yeah, being open, super open to that possibility that you might see teaching in a new light, a better light, a stronger light through this, and change your idea about what kind of teacher you want to be during it, I think is something to just walk into knowing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, was there a checklist that BCTR provided, some sort of checklist of things to do to prepare? I think there was something where I remember I was like, I found like this is like really practical, but it was really helpful for me to like deep clean my like space that I was living in beforehand, because like there's no time to be cleaning during PST. Like one time one kid was talking about cleaning his apartment over the weekend, and I was like, how did he do that? But and just like I made a plan for when I was gonna, it's kind of like maybe like Jocelyn was saying, like what day I was gonna go to the grocery store. So I knew I was always gonna take Saturday mornings off no matter what. Like I just knew that. Like that was my time during the week. And that's when I planned to do my grocery shopping for the week. Just things like that, just like practical things. Like I knew I needed to figure out some logistic stuff in life. So I just made sure to do that. And that I think that was the most helpful thing. So everything was taken care of. I didn't have that extra stress of logistics, which I know is hard with moves and stuff, but that was helpful.
Thanks.
Sean, can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
I think along with prepping and getting ready, you're going to need to be really organized for PST. So if you're somebody that's not very organized about things, this is the time to really get some clear systems in place about whether you're using a planner, virtual calendar, how and when you plan your week, because there are going to be a lot of pieces. And in order to meet all your deadlines and get the support you need, you're going to make sure that you're really managing your time well. And that's going to start at being really organized. So that's just something I would call out for folks.
Thanks, Ya. And for those who don't know, Ya is one of our instructors and coaches for BCTR. Another question that people had asked in our registration, and a popular one, was what's a typical day of PST look like? And what was challenging about it? What was exciting about it? What was unexpected about just living that PST experience? So I've been telling people in welcome calls that their basic schedule is that they're teaching a field experience class in the morning, they're coming back to train, and then they're going home at 5:30, 6 o'clock and working on lesson plans. A very general view, but would love to hear from you guys to flesh out that skeleton that I usually give to people. And I would love to start with Keviette.
Oh yeah. It's kind of what you said. It's definitely just a couple other things in there. But yeah, so you start out at the beginning, and feel free, anyone to jump in and help. But you start out taking what we call ISB courses. So you're building that instruction, and with BCTR at PST, you're really going to learn the fundamental things that you're going to be able to know in order to be a teacher. So some of you are kind of like, what is a lesson plan? Well, you're going to learn. So, you really take the time to learn about instruction. You're also going to take time in classes to learn about culture and how to build that culture, because that is another cornerstone for what you're going to do. So you're going to be taking these classes, and you'll start with taking these classes and building that foundation. And then after some time, you will start to implement those strategies and get lots of feedback from your coaches in real time. And feel free to add, anything, anyone else.
Yeah, from what I remember, it's a lot of hours and a lot of classes, but it's all super valuable information. So to call back to what Ya was saying about being organized, I'm not an organized person. I had to get organized, and I was constantly taking notes the entire time. But you've got your instructional skill building. You've got that cultural skill building that Kevietta mentioned. You've also got diversity classes. You've also got literacy and exceptionalities classes, where you learn how to apply literacy techniques to all content areas, and also where you start to learn things like what IEPs are. What are you supposed to do with special education students that are in your gen ed classes, if you are one of those? And there will be observations, right? You'll get that field experience and teaching that is generally, I believe, in the mornings. I think that was like 8:30 to 11:30 or something for us. And sometimes those come with you get observed and you get graded. And that's a huge part of whether or not you're going to be passing PST or not. So you get a chance to apply that feedback. You don't get, the hard, heavy grades right away. You get a chance to try the techniques you're learning, see what's working, what's not working, get feedback, get very valuable feedback, and then apply it several times before you are actually evaluated on it. So it's a lot of, the first couple week or so, I think is mostly just all classes. And then you start to actually get into field experience teaching in the morning, classes in the afternoon, from what I remember.
Yeah, that sounds right. I will add, and kind of tying back to an earlier discussion we were having, one skill that is going to be so helpful that has really helped me, from what I understand. It's a rare, I don't know, but the ability to take feedback, I guess. Like, I thought everyone could just like take feedback, but apparently that's not the case. But that's going to take you really far, because like you're about to get a lot of feedback. Like I think it was Kevietta said, maybe. And I got a lot of feedback from Kevietta, and you know what? She was always right. All my feedback I got from Jessie, she's all right. Like so much feedback, and I am such a better instructor because of it. And so definitely take advantage of that feedback.
Actually, that's a good place to ask another question about feedback, because I know that's a cornerstone of really growing and being the best teacher you can be. Like, what is some of the feedback that you got that you felt like, oh, this is challenging? I know in our what to do sessions, we did a little bit about that, but I think that's an important piece of PST is in a short amount of time, 6 weeks, you're getting a lot thrown at you and you're being expected to perform these things in a short amount of time and get feedback that may be hard to hear. And I would love for you to speak about that aspect of it.
I think that I probably never got as much in-person feedback in my life until I got to PST. I think like you have an annual review with your job and maybe like on a project, maybe something brief here or there, but you get a lot of tips, tools, structures, reminders. And I think that it's really tough to think, I really pushed myself and I'm still not getting where I need to be. And I think that there's part of you that just wants to say, this will not happen for me. Because again, like I wasn't used to getting that much feedback at once. Like it just felt like an overload. But I think that one of the ways to help manage that is again to stay organized and really focus on one key piece at a time to really push yourself, and you and your coach can work on that. And I think the second thing is to take in all of the feedback, because there's a lot of positive feedback that comes through too. And I think sometimes you can really get focused on what you're not doing well and not celebrate the gains that you're making from week to week or even from one lesson to another. And those are golden as well, because as much as you get feedback, you also learn very quickly. If you look at a lesson plan from week 1 to week 6, you already see so much growth. And you really need to focus on celebrating that as well in order to have that, that combination of factors that will really make you a strong teacher, and I think encourage you to push yourself further.
I will say, like, on top of receiving all that feedback, like, don't be afraid to ask your coach, like, how can you even implement that in the classroom? Because I remember I would, like, my coach would give me all this feedback and I'd be a little overwhelmed. I'd be like, wait, like, how do I do this? And then, but then I would ask her, like, hey, can you like show me? And we would even like role play and she would show me and then she'd be like, okay, like now it's your turn. And like, it would be a great way to practice like those skills that you just learned, or that even implement that feedback that you just learned and practice it to put in the classroom so you can be successful. Because like everyone truly wants you to like succeed and do so well.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just say, especially from like the coaching standpoint, when we give the feedback and we have those one-on-one coaching conversations with you, we are always prioritizing practice right after that. So we don't just leave you right there, but we'll go in and say, well, where in this lesson plan do you think, or let me show you how to do this, and then you do it, and then you take away the pieces, and then you implement it. And I will say another thing about that feedback, because I did have Catherine and Sarah, the more and more feedback that they got, sometimes we would get to the coaching conversations and they were already, especially toward the latter part, they were already so reflective that before I even had to say certain things, they were like, wait, I know where I went wrong in this lesson, or, I think I can improve here with my pacing or my what to do directions. Actually, Sarah had really great what to do's. But it just made them so reflective that they pretty much just took it out of my mouth by the time we sat down, because they had got so much feedback, and they were able to really take it in, and it helped them to become reflective in their own practice.
Great. That's really a lot of detail. And then I think that's super helpful to people coming in. And one thing I do want to touch on, and this is kind of unique this year, I do get a lot of questions about virtual learning. One of the things I do talk about is just kind of how PST was virtual last year. And I do talk a little bit about the details for like Catherine and Sarah. Last year, they were all virtual, and that's kind of all they've known actually in in their teaching experience. And then for Jayla, Jocelyn, and Kevietta, you were in the classroom and went in. I would love to touch a little bit on about that experience for Catherine and Sarah, the experience of like being only virtual. And for those that don't know, Baltimore is in the transition of going into the classroom, and that's something we've talked about in our welcome calls. To give a little more a detail to it, I know that there are some challenges. There's some things that BCTR may have prepared you for, may not have prepared you for, but I would love to hear, and I'm sure a lot of people in this call would love to hear about some of those things. And let's start with a veteran. Let's start with maybe Jayla or Jocelyn or Kevietta.
Okay, well, I was an instructor virtually last year, so that was really my first opportunity to cut my teeth using Zoom as a teaching tool, and it really put me ahead of the curve. I think when I finally tried it out in the fall, we did have virtual classes in the spring, but they weren't as high stakes for my students, so it was really important to start in the fall, setting routines and structures. And then I, pulled out my regular old non-virtual BCTR playbook on how to build community, how to set structures, how to build routines. All of that was very, very similar. The only absent part of course, was to meet my students face to face, but a lot of the same systems applied. It's just a lot of clarity, a lot more clarity in your directions and adjusting assignments. Unfortunately, English, I think I have a subject matter that transfers well to virtual learning. I don't think that's true for every subject area. But I think honestly, most of the things I've learned in BCTR and working with the virtual structure of PST last year made the transition, I think, much smoother than people who had not had the ability to be trained in a virtual setting the way that the PST people were last summer. So I will say that from my end and going to like my school's PD.
I agree with Jayla. It really does. Like everything they teach you, even like what you apply for what was taught for in person is the same as virtual, like setting those routines, building that community. And even though it looks different virtually, you can still build it even better, I feel like, because you really get to like, really, I feel like now really be intentional with like building the community with your kids and like making sure they're okay and like making sure your families are okay. And I know like checking in on them too is really big. And two, I feel like even BCTR, when I was in the classroom and then the pandemic and COVID and everything happened, I know like my coach, like Shanita, shout out to you. She was like always there for me, and she was texting me and being like, how are you doing? Like, I know this isn't easy, but like, can I help? So yeah, so they are really there for you, even like virtually as well. Like, you still get that full like experience.
Yeah, I think our cohort, at least, again, when we were in PST, it just wasn't, we had no idea if we were going to go back in the fall or not at that point. And then it became pretty clear at some point it was going to be not. So I think it was actually an advantage to have been in an all virtual PST, because I was already familiar with a lot of technological tools. I was already familiar with Zoom from the student interface, right? I know where the annotation is. I've seen in real time, right? My coaches and other instructors in PST use these different techniques that they know, but in a virtual environment. So that was like a model that was going on all the time, where you are the person going through it. And so that sort of helped give me something to either try to replicate or at least just use as like, okay, I know kind of what these things look like in a virtual environment because I've been through it. I would call out, and absolutely a lot of these skills are kind of the same in terms of, you know, being very clear with your directions and your expectations for your students, setting those high expectations, engaging the students is always a challenge, that sort of thing. But something that I am most concerned about in transitioning back to in-person, because I've never really gotten, obviously, yes, we've gotten as much practice as we could in it, but something like classroom management is not something that I've yet put to the test in my own skill toolbox, because we didn't have summer school students to really practice on. We did have some simulated practice with our cohort members acting as bad students or something, not bad students, just badly behaving students, which is pretty fun. But classroom management in a virtual environment, from what I hear from veteran teachers, is way easier than it is in an in-person environment. So that's something that I'm kind of not looking, well, it's not that I'm not looking forward to it, but I know that that's a challenge that I'm going to have to dust off my notes from PST and be like, okay, wait, how do I do this? Because on virtual, it's easier, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree with that, Catherine. That is exactly what I feel prepared in every way to go back to the building, except right now I do have a bit of a rowdy bunch from what I understand. Seventh graders, they just like want to come off mute. Like, everyone wants to talk and it's great. And like, some kids get excited about science, but then they get into like some weird stuff and I just need to cut them off. But like, they're just so cute. But from what I understand, yeah, I can't just mute them all when we get back to the classroom, but I can do that now. So that is like, I really am gonna need to like, I am worried about that. I definitely need to brush up on my what to do directions. Like Kavieta said, I used to do them well, but as Jesse could tell you now, a little rusty. I definitely need to type those out. Yeah, what to do directions are so important. But I'm really looking forward to, getting to that classroom and being around kids. But there are some, I mean, some kids are really thriving in the online community. I mean, not many in my 7th grade class, but there are a few that are doing well. So it is reaching some students. All is not lost with virtual learning, I don't think. I'm optimistic.
Okay. As we kind of wind down a little bit, I do want to hear from you guys. One about what, after PST and your first year teaching during PST, what were some things that you were thankful for to like learn? I've heard, a lot about planning, lesson planning, just having connections with the cohort. What are some other things that you would have people focus on that, like, if you focus on this, you're going to be great, focus on, that's going to give them just some inspiration to get through? Like, what was inspiring to you to get through PST, your first year, any challenging things?
I think focusing on reflection is going to pay off over weeks, days, months. I think that's something that is always encouraged during PST. but really take them up on it. Like I said earlier, when you look back at your progress from where you were week 1 to week 6, and then from your first year, from your first day of school to your first day after winter break, even the growth is just phenomenal. I think that when you really see the product of your hard work through your relationship with your children, through the relationships with their families, through their academic progress, and you see it all coming together, I think that just always encouraged me to dig deeper and to be a little bolder. Like, okay, I think I have this down. Like, what if I add this activity? What if I try this to boost rigor even more in this area? I think that it helps build confidence to push yourself when you're able to see what you've already overcome. And I think that reflection, like intentional reflection, taking notes, writing down one thing that you think went really well in a lesson, or this went awful, this is what I've tried. And when I talk with my coach, I'm going to bring this up to see what we can do to work together. I think that's really inspirational and something you're going to take on with you after your first, second. And I'm in my 4th year and I'm still trying to find the gratitude in every moment.
I feel like an inspiration for me, I feel like there were 2 main ones that I took away from BCTR was like, one, like you can always start over. Like every day in teaching, it's never the same. Like you're never going to get the same thing. And it's always okay to start over. It's always okay to even try something new. Because kids love different things. And 2, like a lot of times, like students can get bored too. So it's always okay to like start over, try something new, do things maybe out of your and the kids' comfort zone, but they'll learn. Like it's okay to always try that, and 2, like always remember your why. I feel like that was always like ingrained in us in PST, but it really does pay off. Like remember your why and why you decided to go on this journey, because there can be times when it can be really challenging. You'll have your great moments and sometimes like your sad moments, but always remember your why, because even now, and when you're in the classroom, you're going to have different scenarios and different challenges and all these successes too, but always remember your why and write it down. Maybe put it like over your computer, on your desk, like when you get into the if you get in the when or if you get into the classroom. But yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I exactly wrote down. The first thing that I thought of was thinking about your why. That was definitely ingrained in us. And like, there's a reason why you decided to go into this profession. There's a reason why you have decided to go through this program and to do this very not easy thing. And that is very important to release. And I also echo what Jayla was saying earlier, that importance of self-reflection. That's definitely something else that I am really grateful and thankful to have learned during PST, how important that step is, and to keep a growth mindset. But really you gotta figure out that why, or have some idea of what that is that will help you through PST. And for me personally, like PST was hard. My first semester of teaching in this online environment, I think was harder. Like you definitely have days where you're just crying, or you're thinking like, I'm one email away from quitting. And so what is it that's going to stop you from doing that? Right? If you don't, I feel like if you don't really have a firm handle on that, it's, it's going to be very hard. Like there's no illusion about that. It's hard work, but there's a reason why you want to do it. And so keep that in mind. And the other thing that I wrote down that Mike, that I just have ingrained in my head from Kevietta coaching us, was that idea of especially when we were talking about feedback and all of that earlier, pushing past nice, right? You're here to grow, not just to hear all good things about what you're doing, or only tell people good things. When you're giving your peers feedback during the process, I think learning to push past nice was really helpful in both helping me grow and in helping cohort members grow. So that's something else that's always stuck in my head as well.
Yeah, definitely. I totally lost my train of thought. I had something really meaningful to say though, so apologies. What were we talking about?
Inspiration for getting through.
Yeah. So this is like a true story. I'm just gonna answer this with a true story. I was feeling real down, like really down. Like Cavietta told me I would get the subject matter would fall into place. Jesse said I would get the subject matter. Like these kids are not getting this. Like, they're not drawing these models. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm failing. So it's just like suffering in my own misery, scrolling through student work. And then there's a student that got it all right. And I was just like, I'm not, oh my gosh, like, Angel, I love you, Angel, you just made my day. I was like, okay, let's see. And like slowly, like, there's some other students that like didn't really, I mean, they were like kind of got it, which is like great. Then there was one that didn't meet the assignment at all, but it just said, I love you, Miss Vale. Like, you know what? It's okay. I can do this. Like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'll just try this again tomorrow. So like, I don't know. I think that goes back to knowing your why. Like, I don't know how to explain that in words, but like, that is my why. Like, that did it for me.
Kevietta will give you the last word here.
I guess it better be good. So two things. One, everyone has already said, but I have to say it as well, because it rings true of knowing your why. But the first thing I wanted to say was, if you're going to invest in anything, invest in systems. Someone told me that when I started back in 2018. I'm telling you, and I'm charging you with the same thing. You're not going to be able to do every single thing at that time, and that is okay. But when you invest in those systems, you can prioritize the things that matter and you'll get everything done. Be kind to yourself. And like everyone has already told you, believe in yourself and know your why. When you have your why, you can do anything, and you can do this. You'll be just fine. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank all of you for coming out, taking some time out to talk to us, talk to the incoming cohort. We're excited. I wish we could, actually, why don't we go ahead and do this? If you guys can like come off mute, give a round of applause to our panelists. That would be great, just to have some kind of acknowledgement. Awesome. Great. So we're heading into our last bit here. I'm going to close this out, give you a couple of directions here, but we will still be on, so in smaller groups. If you want to hang out and talk to our instructors, I'll put you in a breakout room with them. If you want to stay, come back to the main line, I will be here. If you have specific questions about enrollment, we will be doing that for the next maybe 20 to 30 minutes or so after we finish up here. But I do want to say thank you for coming out. Thank you for being part of this preview session. There's a lot more sessions coming up. So you're going to be looking out in your emails from me about hiring sessions that's going to be coming up. One of the things I do want to call out about hiring is, one, if you've had welcome calls with me, you've heard me say, get your testing done early, and let me know if you have any issues about testing. Testing is going to be your key to having a successful PST. I guarantee that. It seems like an administrative thing, but it will definitely help you out. And I will be around to take questions for that. If you have any questions on it or having some issues with getting testing done, please let me know. The biggest reason why is that hiring season is going to be coming up. So the next session that I'm going to be doing is going to be on hiring. I'm working now to get some of city schools officials involved to talk to you guys as well as about hiring. And then hiring season will probably open up in May. So I want as many people to be able to take advantage of those hiring resources as soon as possible. Those things will probably start in May. But again, you have to be tested in order to start doing that. So we'll talk a little bit more. And then the other thing, if you haven't uploaded your resume in the task list, please do so as soon as you can, so we can start reviewing that, and that can help you in your search for a job once the hiring season is open. Outside of that, the other things that we're going to be doing is orientation. So orientation is going to be coming up. It's going to be similar to the preview day. where we are going to be doing some work, learning about Baltimore, learning about community, learning about the state of the city and the state of the district. We'll be learning, you'll be participating in some more sessions, more in-depth sessions like you did today. But we'll also start working towards getting our employment stuff together. So we'll also have some officials and do some more things about getting hired and things of that nature. The thing I do want to call out, once I send out those invitations, you'll want to try to figure out a time to be in that time. I'll send it out well in advance, but orientation is going to be, again, mandatory for you to get what you need to start PST, and that will happen at the end of May, beginning of June. So look out for that. Outside of that, we are all excited. I know myself, the coaching staff, directors, the incoming seasonal staff that we're going to start training in a couple weeks are all super excited to have you guys come on. I did want to open it up to the staff, Shanita, Ya, Mercedes, and Jesse, to see if they had anything to just impart with the group before we move into breakouts or before people head out to the rest of their evening.
I just wanted to highlight just quickly that while we've heard how challenging PST can be and how challenging this time with us can be, I just wanted to remind you, inform you all the things that we work intentionally to create a certain supportive culture. And in supporting you, that's through self-care sessions, that's through having a little fun, smiling a little bit through PST, engaging in some social events, whether that be virtual or fingers crossed, hands together, whatever you do, in person. And so I just wanted to highlight that you know, it is a challenging program. It's rigorous. I went through it myself as well. But this team is extremely intentional about caring about the person. And so while we want you to be your best self in terms of your career, we want you to be your best self because we care about you as well. And so in caring about you, that includes building a solid and supportive and fun culture as well. And so I just wanted to highlight that that's also something to look forward to, that even when you're going through challenges, when you go through them together, it makes the challenge that much sweeter. And so we hope that, yes, it will be a challenge, but it will be a sweeter side to that challenge as well, because you have a pool of support that will be forever, ever filled with people that want you to be your best self. And that's your whole self.
I think that was a mic drop, Sean. I don't think I don't think there's much to follow after that, you know.
Great.